quite early. So it's stupid o'clock in the morning and I'm on my way to Eton Dorney Lake for a triathlon. We're going to do an Olympic distance and yeah, it's going to be good, and just to get that race practice in and start going through those motions. So this is my second time round of filming this. I forgot to hit record on the first time. Yeah. Anyway, this is a review of the Eton Dorney Lake Triathlon standard distance and kind of one of the series of learning to race, essentially. So from last weekend, Llanelli happened and I was like, okay, I need to relearn to race and be able to produce what I'm seeing in training in a race scenario. Going to do a little mini series over the next couple of weeks and months and show the progression of how I'm learning to race and how others might be able to learn to race and produce what they're seeing in training in a race format. So this was Eton Dorney Lake. It was a non-drafting standard distance triathlon. And not only was it non-drafting, it was also set off in waves, so individually. So you just started on the pontoon for the swim and you just jumped off the platform one by one. So it wasn't a mass start, which is obviously not ideal for a draft legal race, kind of that melee at the start, which is what I'll be seeking to do, to try and get myself used to that sort of stuff. But it was good for being able to put yourself on the line for X amount of minutes. It ended up being almost 16 minutes of hard swimming and then go bike run after that and go through the motions and get used to putting yourself in that hurt for that amount of time. So I didn't manage to get loads of content over the weekend or on the race day, just because it was such an early start. I felt a little bit disorganized and my focus was on the race, in all honesty. So it was just a case of, yeah, all right, go out there, do what you can do, go through the processes. Because of that, I did that and I didn't film, and there was no spectators to be able to film either, so yeah. What I thought I'd do instead of having race highlights, I've got a few pictures to show you, but I thought I'd go through a bit of the data and show you how what I see in training has now correlated to what I see in a race performance. Before we get into all of that though, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps the channel grow and reach a bigger, wider spread of audience. So thanks for being here. It just takes 2 seconds. You've already started watching the video, so just click the button. That would be great. So all of the distances were a little bit short. The swim probably was about 1400, 1450 maybe, depending on how fast I thought I swam. But yeah, it was about 108 per 100, and that's not bad, but in a wetsuit, yeah, probably what I expect, maybe 108, 107. So yeah, it's about right, about what I'd expect. And fortunately, I had Sam Wade there with me and obviously training partners here in Cardiff. And if I didn't have him, it would have been quite hard, one, to really get into that race mode, but two, to quantify / compare the performances like for like. I would have been able to have data in terms of the powers and speeds, but to see how that related to other people would have been quite hard because I don't know how everyone else is performing. However, I know how Sam's performing in training. He transfers his training performance into race performance very well. So yeah, I think the swim was pretty good. I put a minute into Sam, which correlates quite well to what we're seeing in training, and then went through transition. I swam with my tri-suit down instead of up. Sam swam with his up instead of down, and that meant I spent a little bit longer in transition trying to put it on and zip it up. But other than that, pretty swift transition, so I was pleased with that. And then out onto the bike. So I changed a few things on the bike just to make myself a little bit more aerodynamic, because if you watch the duathlon video and my post-race analysis, I had a massive wind bucket around here, which is not ideal for going fast, essentially. So I brought myself in a little bit narrower, and hopefully I was a little bit more aerodynamic, transferring that power into a little bit more speed. I still didn't transfer as much power into speed as Sam did. However, I did manage to hold him off for the 53, 54 minutes that we were doing. I held about 350 watts normalized and 345 average. And Sam was lower than that again, so if you watched the duathlon video, you'll have seen that his power was lower and he still went faster than me. And the same thing happened this time round. He rode probably 35 seconds into me, whereas I was pushing out maybe 20 watts, 25 watts more than him, potentially, dependent on how his crank read in comparison to what was actually real power. I know mine's relatively accurate because I've tested it against the Duretto, my turbo, which reads roughly within 3 to 4, maybe 5 watts pretty consistently. So I can be pretty confident that the power I was putting out was pretty damn accurate. How does this relate to my threshold? Well, we kind of think that in an Olympic distance triathlon, you can push about or go about 95% of whatever your threshold is for the duration of the 2 hours. And essentially my threshold on the TT bike in a TT position is about 365 watts, which scales down to 350 watts, which is what I pushed on the day. T2 was pretty standard, came in, took a little bit of time to put my watch on just because I wanted the data, wouldn't be doing this in a draft legal setting. It was quite good just because I came into transition still keeping Sam at bay, managed to run out of transition first, and Sam was chasing me down, which is great because then you've got a bit of a carrot, you've got kind of motivation to try and stick at a good pace. And I did. I managed to run, again, 95% of my threshold roughly, and a decent time. Unfortunately, Sam did overtake me, just a better runner. But it was good to have him there, just again for comparison, to see what we're doing in training and racing and making sure that I'm actually transferring that training into racing. But all in all, it was a great event. Like, there was loads of people competing there. It was a great atmosphere. It was actually sunny for once, which I very rarely get in a triathlon. I don't know why. Always feels like it's raining. You always remember the rainy days, not the sunny ones. But each time that I've been to Eton, which has been a couple of times now, Eton was my first ever triathlon back in 2017, I think it was. And it's been sunny. So it was really nice to have a dry race, and it was a little bit cold, but absolutely fine. It was really good and enjoyable, and I feel as though I got what I needed to out of it, i.e. a little bit of racecraft, putting yourself out there, trying hard for 2 hours. So yeah, I think all in all, it did what it needed to do. It was a long drive there and back, but also broke down on the way back. My fault. I basically let it run out of this thing called AdBlue, fuel emission thing, stopped the car, wouldn't restart. Anyway, moving on. I've got a few more races coming up in the next few weeks and months, so make sure you stay tuned and I'll keep you up to date with how I do in those and what I'm seeing data-wise, and maybe from a racecraft perspective, try and get involved with a little bit more of the melee and the swim so that I can relax and try and put out what I'm able to do whilst being a little bit beaten up. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching this far. If you have, it's worthwhile subscribing. So hit that like button, hit subscribe, and even the bell icon to be reminded of when I next upload a video, which won't be long. I'll be making sure to keep you updated with what I'm doing between now and the next race, and also a few other reviews and thoughts and feelings and emotions and things like that. So stay tuned, and I'll see you next time.
Some form of vlog content.
Yeah, get it in